Velyn is an extremely powerful mage, and if you're not using him, you really should rethink your roster. So in this video, I'm going to give you the things you need to take advantage of this very powerful hero. From the skills review, to the talents, the pairings, and also the best artifacts, this guide gives you exactly what you need to know. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today we're breaking down Velyn, who is arguably one of the most powerful heroes in the game. And there's a bunch you need to know about his skills that will then inform the talents and inform the pairings. So in this video, we'll go in that exact order. The skills, the talents, the pairings, the artifacts, and you can use the timestamps to jump to whichever portion you're interested in. And if you like videos like this, breaking down heroes, giving you all the information you need to know, consider subscribing to the channel. I've made over 2,000 videos with dedicated videos about every commander in the predecessor to this game, and very soon I'll have guides up for every single one of these heroes, so thank you for subscribing to the channel. Let's get going, baby. Velyn. Why is he good? I mean, obviously, big damage, area of effect, and a slow. He deals damage to 2 legions and his target. That's 1,200 damage factor, and inflicts freeze, reducing their march speed by 20% for 3 seconds. Each additional target reduces the damage dealt to each target. I would assume this is a 15% damage dealt reduction for each target beyond the first. Now, this does mean that hitting more targets will mean that each target takes less damage, but your total damage is, of course, just going up by virtue of hitting 3 different targets. That's the goal, okay? Second skill, very good. While in the field, Velyn's Legion deals 15% more hero skill damage and also gains 20% march speed. So, really good. I mean, 20% march speed means your mages are moving fast. From here, Bitter Cold, all magic units in Velyn's Legion gain 10% magic unit hero skill crit rate bonus. This is very interesting, and we're going to talk about that. And also 15% defense. So this is a powerful effect that will have synergy with Lilia specifically, and I'll show you that later on. From here, 4th skill, and yes, this is a PvP hero. All 4 skills, good for battling other players. When in battle, Velyn has a 20% chance to inflict magic defense break and freeze on the target, reducing their magic defense by 20% and their march speed by 20% for 3 seconds. Now, this is a second freezing effect, and this matters. I don't know if the Icy Interdiction will stack with the freezing effect from the active skill, but you have 2 ways to apply a freeze. Why does that matter? Because when you actually max every skill on this hero, then you'll be able to do extra damage when you use your active skill and the target is frozen. So let me explain. When casting a rage skill on a target that is frozen, remember, 4th skill applies freeze. Also, 1st skill applies freeze. You're going to deal additional hero skill damage of 400 and remove the frozen effect. All right? So this is very interesting. And it obviously points to some synergy with Waldir, who also has a freeze effect. And we'll talk about that in just a bit, okay? But this also has some implications for whether or not Velyn is the primary hero or the secondary hero, because you want to have one of these freeze effects applied when a rage skill is used. Now, if you're new to this style of game, let me explain. Your march, when you battle in the field, has a primary hero. And once you reach 3 stars, okay, and level 20, you can then have a secondary hero that you bring with you. So the way this works is you will use the active skill of the primary hero. Then there's a second of downtime, and then the active skill of the secondary hero will trigger. So the way I would assume that sort of Snowblind would work here is that you're going to cast Frozen Star on your target. I think there'll be a turn of downtime, and then whoever you have as the deputy, the secondary hero to Velyn, will then use their skill, which will trigger Snowblind, clearing off the frozen effect, and then doing the extra damage. Alternatively, you may already have frozen applied whenever Velyn uses his active skill, because this says when in battle, you have a 20% chance to inflict the freeze effect over here. So it could just be that when you're targeting somebody, you're already going to have a freeze on them. So when Velyn does his first skill, not only should you get this 400 damage factor, it'll clear the freeze and apply a new one. Now, I don't know anyone who actually has the expertise Velyn yet, so I can't test this yet, but I will soon because I'm buying him from the daily special offer, and I put a bunch of universals, that's tokens that don't require any specific hero, into Velyn, okay? So I have put 2 skills on Velyn maxed out. And the reason I have done that, you always want to max the first skill. Very, very powerful. But before you take Velyn past 2 stars, ideally, you will also max his second skill. I think boosting your hero's skill damage is gangbuster. I think increasing your march speed is gangbuster. I wanted to max that skill before I proceeded. Alternatively, if you're in a rush and you have a fight, if you unlock all his skills, it's fine. Just know that the points will then apply randomly. So you won't be able to control where they go. When you only have, the 2 abilities unlocked, you know exactly where they're going. Or when you only have the 1 ability unlocked, you know exactly where it's going. But regardless, this is a great hero to pick up from the daily special offer if you are spending. And that bundle is among some of the highest value in the game. I can show that to you very, very briefly right over here. It's the daily deal. New heroes will eventually show up, which is why I was comfortable spending some amount of universals, but not too many on Velyn, because as a spender, the worst situation I could get into, sort of, is I spent too many universals, and then I'm not able to buy anybody in the daily special offer, but that's a whale problem. And this hero is good if you're free to play or if you're spending. So why is this hero good if you're free to play? Because the control tree is just busted. It's cracked. It's so good, man. So let's talk about his talents, because now that we know he does a bunch of debuffs, this is going to be super relevant. Now, the control tree has a bunch of effects that I just want to talk about. Why is this hero good if you're free to play? Because debuff effects do not care if you have spent a bunch of money in the game or not. They are just as strong on an account that is 2 million power as they are on an account that's 102 million power. It doesn't matter. When you have an effect, there's no extra chance to apply it based on being higher power or having more attack stats, okay? Sure, you'll deal less damage, but the control abilities work just the same, free to play or pay to win. This is why I made a video about Alwyn, saying he is arguably the best free to play epic hero. Card will be up in the top, but I'll remind you of that in the end screen. So let's review the talents, and here is the build, at least the start of the build, that I'm going to recommend. Of course, you have to take attack and then march speed. March speed is critical. You want to take this everywhere you can get it for player versus player. Then you take the health, and boom, your core talent Backstabber makes it so that whenever your Legion inflicts a debuff, you deal 2% more damage for 5 seconds, and this can trigger once every 5 seconds. So remember, deal debuff means do more damage. So we want more debuffs. From here, we get more march speed. I love the freaking control tree. It makes me happy, man. Then we get attack, which will impact the skill damage you deal and the normal attack damage you deal, also your counterattack damage. So normal attack damage is the damage of the thing you are directly targeting, but before you've used your active skill. And counterattack damage is the damage you deal out to other things that are targeting you. Attack is universally excellent. From there, high spirits. I want to increase your rage generation to have him fire off his active skills more frequently. If you think about it, we know we want a rage engine on this hero. Rage is what determines when you use your active skill, by the way. You'll see the little red dots on your bar ticking up as you go toward filling that bar and then using your active skills on your primary hero, second of downtime, then your secondary hero, in this game known as a deputy. So it's very important to generate lots of rage, because when you eventually expertise Velyn, he's going to do more damage every time you're using hero skills. Okay, from here, again, I want more rage. Soul Siphon. Yes, applying a debuff is nice, and I love slows, don't get me wrong, but this is an amazing, amazing talent if you're pay to win or free to play. If you're free to play, you're literally ripping rage from the enemy and using it for yourself, which is amazing. And if you're pay to win, you're literally getting powered up by virtue of people targeting you. That's amazing. Love to see it. Soul Siphon is really good. And then I take another debuff, Blindside. Now, I want this debuff because when you engage the enemy, you want them to get wrecked. 30% march speed reduction for 10 seconds when you enter combat, that target is not getting away from you. They're not. They are potentially screwed. And that works if you're free to play, that works if you're pay to win, and it activates your extra damage from Backstabber potentially. So literally from the very start of the fight, you're going to potentially be doing more damage to the target. Huge win. From here, I want to reduce the defense of the enemy. This is way better than reducing the attack of the enemy. This effect, when using rage skills, a chance to inflict gloom, reducing the enemy's attack, doesn't scale. It influences the one march you've targeted, and that's it. Now, look, this ability, Ambush, it also only affects one target, but for everybody hitting that same target as you, and you should be hitting the same things as the rest of your team, right? For every single army hitting that same thing as you, they get the benefit of this ability, and that is a huge win. And technically, okay, reducing an enemy's attack sort of has that effect, right? It reduces the counterattack damage by a tiny bit that people are taking, but defense reductions are just generally way, 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 way better. And from here, we're going to take Sage. Your Legion has a 50% chance to gain synergy every time they inflict a debuff on the enemy. I mean, bro, we're all about inflicting debuffs onto the enemy, so this is a huge win. So that will increase your hero's skill damage by 5% for 10 seconds. Wow. So we're all about applying debuffs to power ourselves up and also wreck the enemy. Huge win here. You may recall, by the way, in my Kanara build, I recommended taking Lucky Stars. Whenever you inflict a debuff, you heal. This is also very good. But also I recommended this, I believe, on All-Win, okay? Whenever you inflict a debuff, you take the heal. All-Win is an epic. And the reason I'm recommending Lucky Stars on All-Win, but not on Velyn, is that Velyn is legendary, and he does more skill damage. So I'm assuming at this point that if you're using this legendary, like, you're dishing out more damage, and, like, yeah, increasing your hero skill damage is a bigger deal. If you're free to play, okay, you could sort of go on this side of things and go for the heal and the sustain. Regardless, it's not backbreaking what you choose. What I will say is amazing, though, is Reticent, and this is backbreaking. When your Legion casts a rage skill, they have a 25% chance to silence the target, preventing them from casting rage skills for 2 seconds. I love this. In Rise of Kingdoms, the predecessor to this game, Guan Yu had a 3-second silence on his active skill. It was nuts. This only has a 25% chance to trigger, but it can trigger on the active skill of your primary hero and then your deputy hero. You could get lucky and have it trigger 2 times in a row, and your enemy is silence chained, which is just insane. So yeah, no, Reticent is the slam dunk choice here, and it's the reason that you're going with a Velyn primary. This tree, Control, is absolutely cracked. Now from here, I think you go into the PvP tree, and this is just very similar to what I recommended for All-Win, but let's review. After the attack, you take March Speed. Look, you need to be able to run away from your enemy. You need to be able to chase down your enemy. Then you take the Rage Generation, because firing off active skills on this hero we know is really critical. So we want to get all the rage we can. And then from there, we go and we take Army of Valor. It's proactive. It increases your damage by 1% for every 10 seconds to a maximum of 3%. Do I think you will typically get 2-3 stacks? No. Do I think this is a particularly good talent? Actually, no. But it's better than your alternative over here, which is not proactive. It makes it that when you launch a counterattack, you have a chance to reduce damage taken. I mean, you can make yourself more tanky, but that's not what a mage is for, okay? So that's why we've gone into the PvP tree. Alternatively, you could explore the magic tree, but you can't get the March Speed and the Rage Generation, which I really dislike. This is all about dealing damage at the cost of the mobility you could have gotten. So if you wanted to go with the magic tree instead of the PvP tree, you go right up the middle. Okay, you take the hit points, then the Rage Generation when you use a rage skill, then you take Intimidation for more hero skill damage, and then boom, if you're pairing with someone like Lilia or Waldir, take the extra chance to hit another target. That's insane on energy boost. Alternatively, if you don't think you're hitting lots of targets, you should be though, you could take Magic Maelstrom, which is a debuff that benefits this one march. I feel like you're better off with the energy boost though. Just hit a bunch of freaking targets, man. Make those debuffs freaking fly on all those targets. And again, generating extra rage from your rage skills is really good. But the reason I prefer getting high spirits is that you want to get the first activation of your rage skill before your enemy. So a 10% chance to get 50 rage over here and a 10% chance to gain 50 rage over here means your first skill, hopefully, fires first. And you start that snowball of dealing damage, applying debuffs, and so on. I do like rage when you use a skill, but I just think this build is better. So that's the build I would recommend. All right, very, very strong on Velyn, and this has some big implications for who you're going to pair with, okay? And if you're using a Velyn primary, I would strongly recommend Waldir as your best epic pairing. Slam dunk, hands down, okay? When you max all the skills on Waldir, he also applies a freeze effect. This should work with the expertise on Velyn, giving you yet another opportunity to deal the 400 damage factor. Love it, man. They're both ice mages. They both do lots of damage. I just love everything about this pairing. They're boosting hero skill damage. Love it. The only pairing I love more is, of course, the legendary pairing, and that's with Lilia. And this gets kind of interesting because technically, I think Lily is maybe the better primary. It kind of depends if you're free to play or pay to win, okay? If you're on the low spender side of things, you have to be spending some amount of money to have Lilia, right? If you're on the low spender side of things, you might consider using the Velyn primary in order to have all those control effects, okay? But if you're a pay to win, or we're talking, about many months down the road, everybody's got their T5s. I suppose it might be a year down the road. Everyone has T5s. This hero's old and expertise. You got him from gold keys over time, whatever. You spent some universals on him, right? If we're talking about that point, what's interesting is that Lilia has a really, really good synergy with the skills specifically on your Velyn. And where is that? It's right here. Focus. When launching a normal attack, your Legion has a 10% chance to increase or gain hero focus, increasing their hero skill crit rate by 10% for 5 seconds. And then your Legion does 15% more hero skill critical damage. Okay, so why is this combo good? So not only are you boosting your crit rate, you're boosting your crit damage, and Velyn goes in and says, okay, I'm also going to boost your crit rate by another 10%. So you just have a lot of synergy here with dealing crits that do big damage. That's the idea. It's a small synergy, but it's good. The other thing that's really good about the Lily primary, and the build that I can show you, I'm using it when I PvP, and I'm on my way to getting sort of the final talent over here. But anyways, the thing that she does super well is generate lots of rage. Okay, you have the same high spirits talent, but then you take Spirit of Rage. Every time you use an active skill, you get 20 rage. And then you also have Foresight. When casting rage skills, your Legion has a 25% chance of gaining 75 rage. You're just all in on the big damage plan with generating a lot of rage. Particularly this piece of the rage engine is sort of nice. It's not insane, okay? We're talking about 40 rage per cycle. That's 20 on the primary hero and 20 on the secondary, but still, everywhere you can generate rage and make that sort of rage engine work is strong, and I bet you that over time, they'll add some artifacts that generate rage too, and that's when really busted stuff happens. If they ever do that, we'll see. So while we're talking about hero pairings, though, let's look at other pairings that I think are good for Velyn. Okay. The other good pairing would, of course, be Alwyn. He's a mage. He applies debuffs. I think Waldir's a better pairing. They're two frost mages with great synergy, but Alwyn debuffs are very good. Alwyn's a powerful hero. He could be the primary if you wanted. He has the exact same trees. Magic, PvP, control. So if you've been leveling your Alwyn and then you're now realizing, hey, wait a minute, I should maybe use Velyn too, that's a thing you could do, and they would work extremely well together. Another combo, and we're now entering the realm of you can do these things, but I'm going to start to wonder, why are you doing these pairings? But another combo you could start to look at is with Thea, and you'd use Thea as the secondary. There's not particularly synergy here, but they both work with ranged damage, magic damage, and Thea's going to make you really tanky and throw out shields, which is cool. It's a utility play. Alternatively, you could go with Atheus, and this is interesting and unexpected. So he does single target damage. That's fine. But the thing that's really cracked is he also gives you another chance to generate rage on your normal attacks. So if what you wanted to do was just really crank the damage and the debuffs on Velyn, 30% chance on a normal attack to grant 60 rage is really, really good. Combine that with both your high spirits procs and you're going to generate a lot of rage, deal a lot of damage. If you do choose all flying units, you could be going the League of Order, use Celestials, and you do get the bonus here, but it's not critical. The Legion is composed entirely of flying units. All healing effects they receive is boosted. Who cares, man? You don't have to use flying units. Also, you get march speed and take less damage, which is amazing. Also, a chance to heal when you get attacked. Triggers once every 10 seconds when you max out all his skills. So I think the synergy here is actually way better than it's probably getting credit. There aren't great debuffs, but there is rage generation, And that means you're going to be firing off Velyn's debuffs more frequently. And if you do have expertise, that also means more triggers potentially of Snowblind. That's what more skill triggers means. Now, again, we're still in the realm of heroes where I'm like, why are you doing this? But you could pair with Hosk. I don't know why you would. If you have some other weird combination of things going on and you have a Hosk and somehow you're left with Velyn and Hosk, yeah, you could do that. And Hosk needs to be the secondary. Hosk doesn't have any debuffs. He actually wants you to buff yourself, which, like, you're not doing too much of that on Velyn. But you should, where able, take abilities that are going to buff yourself if you have a maxed Hosk. Again, I feel like it's the 3 people listening that that applies to. You know, just make sure you take talents that buff yourself, like Sage over here. Giving you a buff is really, really good. Okay, when you inflict a debuff, you gain a buff on yourself, increasing your hero's skill damage. That will synergize with Hosk. Similarly, Backstabber. Whenever you inflict a debuff onto the enemy, they also deal 2% more skill damage for 5 seconds. I'm pretty sure that qualifies as a buff on yourself. So it's actually, there's some sneaky synergy here. More than I expected with Hosk, but I'm not going to say that's a good combo. I don't know why you wouldn't just pair with a mage and put Hosk somewhere else. That's what I think you should do. Along the lines of other heroes where I'm like, interesting, but why are you doing it? We do need to talk about Indus. I think this would work. Indus has a debuff. She's also got a heal. So you're in this like very curious utility role with a Velyn Indus combo. I think it's probably sneakily good. But until I actually can run around with an Indus, I mean, I'm not really going to recommend it. I'm just going to say it could work, actually. It actually could work. Pan is the only other hero where you could plausibly pair. You're doing magic. Actually, you're not doing any damage factor at all. So Velyn and Pan, you're going to have damage and then a heal, which is kind of curious. You heal nearby units, and also you increase your normal attack damage dealt. It's just not really on plan. But you could do it. And like, in fairness, you know, if you're out of stamina on your heroes, and for those that don't know, there's this thing kind of behind my head over here called stamina. Each hero has 100, okay? It regenerates over time, but when you leave your city and you fight just one other player, for the rest of the time that you're at your city, you have consumed that 10 stamina, okay? You can hit as many other players as you want, but the second you hit one, you consume the 10 stamina, and then you can hit as many as you want when you come back to your city and then leave your city again. If you hit another player, it'll consume another 10 stamina. So there's just a limit to the amount you could use heroes. I don't know, man. If for some reason you're reaching and you got to use Pan, you could do it, I suppose, and it wouldn't be absolutely miserable, maybe. Also, I forgot to mention Eliana. Eliana works. Absolutely no synergy whatsoever, but she totally works. She's just tanky, and she'll give you shields, and it's fine. Very tanky, does shielding and healing, has sustain. You might use her because you can max her very, very, very easily at the start of the game, and that would be super, super reasonable to do, okay? So from here, let's talk about the artifacts, and there's really only a small number of artifacts that we need to talk about. The artifact that you would use in an ideal world is going to be the Phoenix Eye, okay? Big damage, big AoE, it's just very powerful on every mage. Boosting your attack is great. If you were free to play low spend, okay, it would be more interesting than a pay-to-win player trying to use a tier of Arbin. I don't think this is the top tier choice. I already shared with you what I think that is. It's the Phoenix. But the tier of Arbin is interesting because it does a healing effect for your party, right? So if you're playing in a group, and you should be, this is kind of a cool idea. You're just doubling down on survivability and utility, which if you are a lower spender is not a bad idea, okay? Then from here, let's go to the real number 2, okay? It's not really tier of Arbin. It gets the honorable mention because it is really good. But I think your real number 2 is Magic Bomb. It's the budget Phoenix Eye, okay? And also, I mean, I don't have a Phoenix Eye, and I feel like I opened a lot of keys, okay? So Magic Bomb is probably your best choice after the Phoenix Eye. Now, from there, after those 3 artifacts, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've really kind of covered the big ones. You would have to be really reaching at that point because you're using many mage marches for whatever reason at the same time, and you're like out of mage artifacts. But I guess the final choice would maybe be a Freezing Ring. Maybe if you go like super utility, you go with the Spirit Bangle. And I will say that magic unit hit points are probably way better and Legion hit points are probably way better than it's getting credit for. In the game that this was based on, there's a sort of diminishing returns. Once you get lots of a stat, the less effective it is. It turns out that hit points is rarely given, and so hit points are generally very, very good. But this is a pure utility play. You could do it. I think the top choices, however, are number 1, Phoenix Eye, number 2, Magic Bomb, number 3, Tear of Arbin, and there you freaking have it. Now, as I consider my own marches and the things that I'm doing, I do at some point need to consider potentially running 2 mage marches, and that might be a better play than, I mean, at the start of the game, going for multiple tier 5 troop types. You know, you start by picking one. For me, maybe I should just go mages, and then I use Lily with, I don't know, somebody. I could pair with, let's say, Atheus, and then maybe I pair Velyn with Waldir to double down on the Frost Mage synergy, right? Like, I'll have to figure out what I would want to do. But otherwise, I just have to say, Velyn is a freaking beast, man. And I have used him, and I have enjoyed using him. He's not as much damage as Lily, and her Scorch effect is just absolutely insane. But the fact that you can get this dude absolutely free to play, or accelerate it with some payment every day, $3, bunch of tokens every day, he's just so strong and so accessible. This is why I ranked him at the very top of my tier list for every hero. If you want to see that video, card will be in the end screen, and subscribe and throw a like on the video if you haven't already. Alternatively, if you're looking for that guide on Alwyn and why I think he is the best free-to-play epic hero, card will be in the end screen for that as well.